Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
All right, welcome to the Side Action, episode 33 of season 7. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on X and on Instagram.
And I'm Coop.
Okay,
You can check me out on Instagram at Dalton Cooper, at Mr. Grumpy, or at Dalton Cooper on Instagram, and then at Mr. Grumpy Gills on X. Make sure to check us out on TikTok. I know, that's our baby. So we're trying to grow that platform. So give us a like on there. There's always some great videos. And are we officially a throuple, by the way? Is this what this means? Are we a throuple? Is this? I love that we have the third face in here because, again, I love the horse racing because I love learning about new sports. But I just happen to have that thought. Like, we used to be a couple. Now are we a throuple?
I don't know. We have to ask Art. I mean, it's his second appearance.
Yeah.
Like I said, it took 5.5 years or 6.5 years for him to get on here. So we are trying to get other guests. I know you're going to have to talk about it later in the podcast. And then I did try to get Desert Arizona Dave on here, but he needs to practice. He said in front of the mirror or something. So
okay.
Welcome back, Art. How you doing, Prime?
Wegs, Coop, thank you so much for having me back on your podcast. It means a bunch. And plus, I think I owe your listeners and viewers some better tips because I was 0 for 2 last weekend on the podcast. I actually had a good weekend last weekend, but the podcast tips were just absolutely brutal. So I apologize to your listeners.
It's okay. I only put the 401k on it. I thought that we called that the 401k pick of the week, and I did it. So I got to go back to the tables and win some more money. It's okay. It's all good. What about we'll talk about your weekend in a minute, Art. Coop, looks like you had a pretty big weekend, dude. You got a lot of activity on this thing.
Oh man, we ran out of Peoria. I got to see Pete Weber in the flesh, the GOAT, so that was fun. Man. You could definitely tell cocaine was a hell of a drug back then. He's so skinny. I can't, this man's got to have like a 27-inch waist or 26-inch waist, man. It's crazy. But no, he was very nice. I could definitely tell he's very ornery, but he's bowling and he's in that mood. But that was fun. Got to check out the Frank Vincent Memorial Doubles. They ran a really big event. Had like over 200 people, I think, in the field. So that was a good time. Did that, and then Monday we checked out the White Sox game. So that was cool. There was probably
I saw the nacho helmet.
There was probably like 500 people there, maybe a little bit more than that. So it was a great day. It was a little chilly. Yeah. We had a chance to catch 2 fly balls or 2 foul balls. Yeah. Linneo was not paying attention as Harrison Bader catches it in the 6th inning, catches the last, out in right field for the Twins. And I know him from his days with the Cardinals, right? Because I used to play the Reds all the time. So I'm yelling Harrison, and he throws the ball over the net. We're probably 15 to 18 rows off the field. But she's looking diagonal at the field, and I'm looking this way at the ball. So I'm going to try to lean over her to catch this ball, and she's not paying attention at all. And by the time I try to even get to it, some other guy ran up and took it from me real quick. And then not even 5 minutes later, another foul ball comes our way, hits the concrete, bounces up, and she hits right off of her finger. It goes right over to somebody else. It looked like she had jammed her pinky pretty good and swole up. And so we
should have used the helmet. You got to use the helmet.
I know. That's what she even had those knit gloves on. I told her we need to get her we need to get her an actual glove next time we go.
Yeah, mitt.
So maybe we can. Yeah, maybe we can make the play. But yeah, it was a good time. The stadium food there was fantastic. I recommend anybody. The tickets were $3, which I thought was great. But parking was $30, so I thought that was really funny. But yeah, then we had Tuesday night bowling, and we're doing the hockey pod and everything in between. So it's been Linneo spring break, so we've been trying to get some of the action in while we can.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, well, I had a wedding weekend with my niece's wedding. Friday was the dinner out in the burbs. Came back, met Scotty Green and Luke for little drinks and watched a little of the games. That's Friday night. And since I was on the hot streak and kept talking it up, I dropped off Scotty Green and said, I'm going to go back out to Rivers. Mr. Degenerate Wegs, he's got his own spot out there. And you know what? I won again. I was so hot. So I was excited, even though I was a little banged up at volleyball the next day. Went to the wedding, danced a bit, although it was an early night. And then mistakenly went back on Sunday and finally took my lump. So, it happens. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, the hot streak can't continue forever, I guess. What happens? You need
Going to the well
so
too many times. You're going to that. Yeah.
Maybe. So as we transition into the shed, I guess I'll start this. I'll put myself in the shed right away. I was, first of all, obviously I had the hot streak, but secondly, I fell for. I didn't forget about April Fool's Day. It happens every year. People talk about it. I'm on X. I'm on the train, rushing to the office, and I see 7th year of eligibility for Hunter Dickinson. I was like, what? And I tweeted a couple of people in the basketball industry, not that they know me. I was like, how could he get seventh year? Obviously, it was an April Fool's joke.
Oh, I was gonna say, please tell me somebody responded to you. Please tell me somebody was like, no, it's April Fool's, you meatball.
Did it. But I saw it in the comments, was like, oh, April Fool's. I was like, God damn it. I'm like, the guy's already a dinosaur as is. But so Jimmy Wegs fell for it. I mean, I'm getting older. I get duped. The seniors get duped. You got to watch yourself out there in those scams. So the other one I want to do, more basketball related, we had Arkansas, who had the game in hand, up 13 with 4:44 to play on Thursday. Oh no, they lose to Texas Tech in overtime. But then Texas Tech up by 10 with 5 minutes to go in the Elite Eight against Florida. They blow it. So those guys, Gators, Razorbacks, get over there, get in the shed, figure it out for next year. Of course, they're probably all in the portal anyway. But and the last one, I kind of more of a open to your concept here for those seam heads in Dalton, torpedo bats. First of all, I didn't even know this was a thing. I wasn't sure if I put this in Club Dub or the shed, but I think the shed, I heard they are legal, these bats that the Yankees are using, these kind of bowling pin bats that you could use, as bowling pins after the game if you want. But why has this never happened before? So I don't know, I guess for the shed is, why has baseball never used this damn bat before if it's jacking home runs all the time?
Well, they did. So I was watching MLB Network the other day, and they were talking with the guy, the scientist who's behind this, which I think is fascinating. How they've guys from NASA and MIT doing all this. But apparently, Giancarlo Stanton was using this bat last year in the playoffs, and he had 9 home runs. There's a 7 or 9 home runs last year during that playoff run. I think there was another player in the playoffs. I can't remember the name, but the real implication really came after that 20-run outbursts against the Brewers. Right. So the Yankees, I guess, had called him in 2023 and started asking him about new designs and ideas for new bats that they can implement. So it's not necessarily that it's brand spanking new, but it's just new in the aspect of being applicable and obviously you scored 36 runs in 2 games like the Yankees did against the Brewers, and it kind of gets everybody's attention. So
yeah, pretty incredible.
So, but I love math. So anytime math and sports and physics can all come together, physics. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Science and sports.
It's dice control. It's pool. You've got bowling involved. You like the spin rate. So what about you? Who you got in the shed?
Oh, man. Well, I wanted to put finger guns in the shed. John Morant is back at it again, unfortunately. Him and Buddy Hield were getting into a finger gun dispute. I just don't understand what is the whole fascination with the finger guns and why it's a celebration. Did you know this year too they're banning the first down in football? If you do the line across your nose when they do the first down, they're banning that. It's
illegal?
A 15-yard.
Why is that illegal?
I don't know. I guess the promotion of the game, it's not family oriented. I don't know. I had no idea.
Can you do the first down with your hand, the little first down?
Yeah, you could still point, but I guess you just can't do the line. You can't get all worked up and fired. So Pete Weber would have a real hard time, I guess, which is really funny how we've come full circle on that. So, and then I wanted to put the 76ers in the bin, man. They've had It was announced today that Tyrese Maxey was going to miss the rest of the season. I don't know if you know this or not, Wegsy, but they had the 4th best odds coming into the season to win the title. They were at plus 1,000. That's what they were listed at. So Embiid's gone, Paul George is gone, Tyrese Maxey's gone. I mean, Joel Embiid has missed 400 games or 400 some odd games and made
and he played
$300 million.
That was smart. That was smart for him to play in the Olympics, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, he played on Team USA too, so you knew he was going to be riding the pine. If he played for Team France, he would probably gotten a lot more minutes. So, but 76ers get in the shed, enjoy the torpedo bat. Have fun.
Exactly.
See you later.
Exactly. What about you, Prime? Anything for this week for the shed?
I got to put my cousin's horse into the shed, Monet's Magic. The horse didn't run. Actually, you know what? The funny thing, the race is set up perfectly for the mid-pack closing horses, which I remember predicted on the podcast last week. I was thinking there would be a speed battle between Speed King and Cornucopian, which happened. So I was sitting there looking at the fractions, 2 furlongs in, a quarter mile in. I saw 22. I'm like, ooh. And then, 4 furlongs in, a half mile into the race, I saw 45. Also, I look at my cousin, I go, you got a good chance today.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so he's sitting by Cold Battle and Publisher, 2 horses that came in second and third, respectively. And but those horses started going, and, Monet's Magic looked like he was in quicksand. He just did not fire last Saturday, so he's in the shed for sure. Hopefully not glue shed, but he's in the shed.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Too much drinking the night before. But well, you can tell us about that in a minute. So, any others in the shed this week?
No, that's it for me.
What about Club Dub? We can lead off Club Dub. Let's make it positive. Let's flip the energy here.
I'm gonna throw a little shout out. Jim and I are on a text message with one of our friends. The best state of Illinois basketball team that went furthest in NIT NCAA tournament, Loyola Chicago Ramblers. Hey, they made it to the semifinals, the NIT, fought in a tough game. It didn't go their way, but they lasted the longest of all the Illinois teams this year. So a shout out to them. Welcome to Club Dub.
Yeah, Ridgeway. You can mention Ridgeway. She used to be a listener. She might be listening. The more we mention her, the more we'll get her to listen.
Nice.
What about you, Dalton? Who's in Club Dub this week? And again, this is more like we got an upper deck to the primetime lounge. It's like an upper deck. There's like ladies dancing up there and shaking around.
Absolutely. Well, the first one I had Geno Smith. He got paid today. I don't know if you saw that. He got a 2-year extension worth $75 million. I think with incentives and everything, it can max out at 86.6. So, I mean, the man that we all thought was left for dead is he's hanging around. He's, I should have looked up his career earnings. I didn't have a chance to, but yeah, he's under contract through 2027, 34 years old. He's going to be playing football until he's 36, 37, which again, if you look back 3 or 4 years ago, man, he was left for dead. No one wanted him, and he's resurrected his career. So it's a nice little payday for him.
There's no better time to be an average quarterback in the NFL. Yes. I mean, I'm telling you, Kirk Cousins got paid last year, barely played, didn't play well. Geno Smith, I'm sure most of that's guaranteed. He's sitting pretty, so.
Oh yeah. And then the St. Louis Blues, they're on a 10-game heater. I don't know if you knew this, but they hired Jim Montgomery, and I believe it was in November, who had gotten fired from the Bruins, and it wasn't more than 48 hours after he gotten fired from the Bruins that the Blues had hired him. Well, in his time since then, the Bruins are 20, 27, and 6, while the Blues are 32, 16, and 6. So a nice swing. Like I said, they're on a 10-game heater. They've shot up since the Four Nations break. They've passed 4 Western Conference teams, now hold the first wild card spot. They're probably the hottest team in the league right now. And things are looking up in St. Louis right now. It feels like 2019 all over again if you ask the folks that live in St. Louis. So they're in Club Dub.
There you go. Welcome in. In a couple of weeks, we may have somebody else who's going to probably break a record in Club Dub. We'll allude to that.
Well, it may not even be. It might be this weekend, Wegs. He plays Chicago. He could have a hat trick very easily.
Yeah, he just needs 3 to break it, 2 to tie, right? Is that right?
Yeah, 2 to tie, 3 to break it. But the most fascinating thing about that whole thing, do you know how many more shots on goal that Alex Ovechkin has than Wayne Gretzky?
No idea.
It was like over 1,300 more shots. It's an insane number. And obviously it's only continuing to go up now that he's still playing. But yeah, it's really fascinating how good Wayne Gretzky really was in his heyday.
He was just money every time, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna put John Shire in the shed, maybe a little premature, or not the shed, in Club Dub, nice. A little premature. However, I mean, he's a super young coach. He's only 37. He's not the youngest coach to take a team. That was Brad Stevens for Butler, actually back-to-back 32 and 33. But at 37 years old, he's incredible, and he's also, if they end up winning the title, he'll be the 3rd coach to have played on the team and be the head coach of a national champion. The other 2 were Dean Smith in 82 and then Bobby Knight in 76. So just something to watch out for this weekend. You've kind of got, we'll talk about it in a minute, with the young guys and the old guys in terms of the coaches this weekend. Going to whatever. I'm getting older. Prime and I are getting a little older than you. You'll at some point have your icons pass. I can't
Oh,
believe it.
yeah.
Val Kilmer, man.
Tough.
Dude, the Iceman, saint, real genius. I mean, and I
Batman.
watched Batman. I watched Tombstone last night. Doc Holliday. Yeah, I'm your Huckleberry. Watched that
Nice.
last night. So Val Kilmer, you were in Club Dub, sir, in the clouds. Thank you for all that you did. Amazing man, and obviously influential for all of us. Even my daughter, who, obviously was subjected to all the '80s movies. She loved like three people in the '80s, and one of them was Val Kilmer. All the blonde bad guys. Not that he was that bad in Top Gun. And then the last and most important Club Dub guy,
Okay.
I hold out for this guy because I'm tough on him. He might have got picks right before, but this is real. Mr. 300 bowling game this week, hooking like a mother in there. I lost.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you saw this video of when he was hooking that shot in. It was like, oh my God, just perfect. Woo! Smashing it down. So, Coop, congratulations on 300, buddy.
Thanks. Maybe we can make it back to back. Hopefully, maybe we'll do it again this week. We'll have some fun
That's
with
right.
it. Yeah.
I'm
but
assuming
thanks.
with that you get to take home some cash or whatever, the pool for the week or whatever it is.
Yeah, they do like a jackpot in the third game. I got a really cool jacket actually. They give out
Nice.
I do have it right here. They give out these 300 club jackets.
Woo! Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Hey,
According
there's the
to our it's blurring it out here, but according to our league secretary, I guess I'm the sixth person ever in that league to shoot 300 and get a jacket. So that's pretty
awesome.
cool. Shout out to Waveland Bowl. I had no idea I was going to get a jacket. So like he came up to me after the game, shook my hand. He's like, "Hey, what size jacket do you wear?" And I was like, "What size jacket do I wear? What the hell do you mean?" And then he came back and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's pretty cool." So I mean, I've gotten like bowling pins before for shooting 300 games, but yeah, never a jacket. So shout out to Waveland Bowl.
You're gonna have a whole chest of those at some point here.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, let's jump into the pre-Kentucky Derby primetime segment that is week 2 now, and Prime wants redemption. First, Prime, walk us through the Arkansas Derby. You don't have to go into great detail and everything. You already talked about what happened with the horse, but you kind of were, you had the one pick on the horse, right? So you had that one horse, but what did you say? You said that those two horses went and yours didn't, Monet's Magic, but what happened in the race?
All right. So there was a speed battle, as I said earlier, between Speed King and Cornucopia, the Baffert horse. Those two were just setting hot fractions. And then when the horses came around the final turn, Cold Battle made his move and got there, and Speed King he was exhausted, so he was done. And honestly, when I look at the bloodlines, I didn't think he could get the distance. But on top of it, those hot fractions, he was really done. He looked exhausted. So then Cold Battle had the lead for a little bit, but then some of the deep closers, not the deep closers, but the mid-pack horses started coming in, and Sandman, the gray horse, just got out there, and he's from Taphead is his sire, and they're a little goofy, and he looked a little young because he started wandering when he took the lead, but then he had Ortiz on him, Jose Ortiz, and he got he got him to kind of settle down and run a straight line and finish it, and he won the race. So he came from further back, and then the second place horse was Publisher, and he came from way back as well. The third place horse was Cold Battle, so he was more mid pack. And Cold Battle was probably he wasn't the favorite, but he was certainly, a lot of people down in Hot Springs, Arkansas, were talking about Cold Battle and Publisher. It's interesting when I was asking people, who do you guys like? Those are the two names that popped up. And honestly, maybe that's the transition I'll get. Last week I gave like 2 lessons about horse racing. Try to predict the shape of the race, what you think the speed is, and then you can make your bets appropriately. And then the second thing I said is watch the earlier races to try to predict how the race is going to be the big race. And that's what I did that week. But another lesson, which I don't really get to do this as much, when you go on site at the track, at the local track, ask the locals, what they think, because they're, some of them are pretty good gamblers, and they got the, they might have some, contacts at the track, and Publisher kept coming up all the time out there. So when I heard Publisher, I made a little change in my bets. I put a lot of money on my cousin's horse, but I hedged it, and I actually hit a $3 superfecta You didn't pay that great because it was mostly favorites. If my cousin's horse came in there, that would pay nice. But yeah, I threw Publisher in there. So yeah, those three horses, came back from mid-pack, further back and got in there. And the fourth place horse was the Baffert horse, Cornucopian. And I'll give a lot of kudos to that horse. That horse ran some hot, fast fractions up in front and still hung in tough to get a little bit of that money on the fourth place spot. I bet you there's a lot of owners out there that are, that horse didn't get enough points to qualify for the Kentucky Derby. So I bet you there's a lot of owners that own and will race horses at the Kentucky Derby that are happy not to see that horse in that race. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Well, we can name you Art Hedgerton III now because that's that's Coop's favorite term for me. So this week we've got 3 prep races. These are kind of the final prep races for the Kentucky Derby. Is that right, Art?
That is right. And actually, there's a 4th one out in in Saudi Cup. Yeah. So there'll be even one out there. But these are the 3. Honestly, these are the 3 big ones.
And so we'll go over 2 short segment, and then you'll get into the last one. So the first one's the Wood Memorial. It's a pretty big field, 12 horses. The only one I know you're going to talk about who's probably going to win, but I mean, I like Omaha, who's the 12th horse at 20-1. Not the bet, but that's a fun name. So who do you like in this race, and who do you think is going to come in?
All right. So the horse that I think going to win the Wood Memorial up at the Big Aqueduct is the number 7 horse, Grand. The owner is Rapoli Stables. It's Mike Rapoli. His racing colors are the New York Mets colors. The bright orange and blue. Dylan Davis is the jockey. Todd Pletcher is the trainer. It's interesting to note all the horses that are qualified to run the Kentucky Derby. There's no Todd Pletcher horse at this time. He's got 2 chances this weekend, and Grand A is probably his best chances, in my guess. So the connections here are great. He's won his first 2 races. He kind of they were down in Gulfstream. He likes to be up in front. And, with the bloodlines, he looks like he could handle the distance. He certainly won't be a favorite. I think his morning line odds were like 7 or 8 to 1 or something like that. The bettors will probably be Baffert shipping a horse in California, the number 1 horse, Rodriguez. Yep. I think he's just taking a shot in the dark here. I do not like Rodriguez. So to win this race, I am landing on the number 7 Grande.
Okay, well, he's 7-2. I mean, it looks like the favorite now. The other ones are 4-1, but maybe that's changed since you looked at it.
Yeah.
And then the second race is Santa Anita. There's only 5 horses in this race, so I read that they've cut down the points by 25% for the Kentucky Derby. So, do you like anybody in this short 5-horse field?
This race, actually there's 6. I think there's 6 horses racing in the Santa Anita Derby. Between the Florida Derby, the Santa Anita Derby, and the Bluegrass race, those are like the 3, and Louisiana Derby as well. Those are the 4 major races that tend to have a Kentucky, send a horse that usually wins the Kentucky Derby. So most likely the winner of the Santa Anita race will be probably the favorite for the Kentucky Derby, especially if it's journalism or else Citizen Bull. Citizen Bull was the 2-year-old champ from the Breeders' Cup last year. And Citizen Bull, in journalism is Michael McCarthy's horse, which won his last major stakes race out in California in Santa Anita. So those 2 will be heavily betted. The horse that I am looking towards is actually the second horse for Bob Baffert, Barnes. Barnes is named after Bob Baffert's longtime assistant. Obviously, I think Bob has a lot, feels highly about this horse, is my guess. And then secondly, he's got his number 1 jock on it. Juan Hernandez is his leading jockey out in Santa Anita, and that's his number 1 go-to jock for Bob Baffert. So I'm going to do a win bet on Barnes to win the Santa Anita Derby.
Okay, there you go. So now this is the one you want to talk the most about. This is the Bluegrass Stakes. Is this at Churchill Downs, or where is this at?
This is in Keeneland by Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay, nice. So I have this as a 7-horse field. I hope that's right, Art. But I've got the 1 horse is River Thames. That's 5-2. You want to talk about that horse?
Yeah. River Thames is certainly a solid horse. Great connections. This is Todd Pletcher's 2nd horse that they'll have a chance to do, to possibly get qualified, win and qualify enough points to get into the Kentucky Derby. I read Ortiz Jr. is the jock, and Todd Pletcher's the trainee. He's won 2 races and came in 2nd and lost to Sovereignty by a neck. at the Fountain Youth at Gulfstream a month ago. Fountain Youth is a solid race. Sovereignty is a solid horse. Sovereignty came in, I think, second last week. I told your listeners that he would win the race, and actually, when I was down at Oakland Park, everyone's telling me about to bet on Tappan Street. So I actually switched my bets. I did a Tappan Street win bet, but anyways, I missed out on your podcast on that one, so I'm sorry about that. But River Thames lost to a solid horse. This is certainly a horse I would consider to use to win or be my exotic best bets.
Okay.
Got a lot of rain in the forecast from Lexington, by the way. It's supposed to rain all weekend, so just keep that in mind.
Hey, great call there, Coop. You're so right about that. You know what? The people who are running the racing out there, they actually cancel Saturday and Sunday. They're pushing the races to Monday and Tuesday. So this race is going out Monday afternoon. So you're right about the weather.
Yeah.
The two horses Render Judgment. It's 20-1, so a bit of a long shot in this race. Any chance?
No interest in this horse, so we can move on.
You've rendered judgment against this horse.
I did. It's quick and he has no shot.
Okay. 3 horse is Burnham Square at 4-1.
Burnham Square is an interesting horse, and I think this is the horse. I am going to land on this horse to win the Bluegrass Stakes. He won 2 races. Out of the last 3 races, he's won 2 in a row. He won two races, and then he came in 4th in his last race. I think he moved a little too early down at the Fountain Youth at Gulfstream a month ago. I feel like he's going to get a better ride this time around, and maybe he's a closing type of horse. So if you start too early, you get one big long run, and then that's it. And if you don't have enough energy, then you just can't get there. So its timing is so important. His jockey's Brian Hernandez. You got Wilkes as the trainer, Scat Daddy on the dam side, Liam's Map on the sire side. This horse could get the distance. I see a big kick in him. I think the feed fraction won't be as fast as what we saw at the Arkansas Derby, but it'll be contested, and there'll be a chance for horses like this to get there at the finish line. So this is my win horse, the number 3 Burnham Square.
All right, you're putting on the line again. We'll see what happens here, Art. I trust you.
I am.
Okay, so the 4 horse is also, decent odds. That's Owen Almighty, kind of funny name. 3-1.
So actually, I saw Owen Almighty win down at the Tampa Bay Downs racetrack about a month ago. I was in Florida with my dad for about half a week, and then I went over to Tampa to hang out with my cousin and some of his friends in golf. And actually, one day they had 5 people to golf on Saturday, and obviously, as Coop knows, and Wegs, 5's not going to work. So I took one for the team. I said my back was hurting me, and I was like, you know what? I'll just go to the racetrack that day. So I went to the racetrack, and actually, I'm glad I went. It was some really nice racing. Owen Almighty beat some good horses that day. Chancellor McPatrick, which is a closing type of horse. I'm fading in a little bit. The Tampa Bay Derby tends not to bring out the best quality horses compared to the other tracks around the country. So I'm going to fade him, even though there's some really good connections here. You got Jose Ortiz, a really great jockey, and Brian Lynch as the trainer. So I don't think he'll win, but he might be. He'd be a horse to consider for your exotic bets.
Okay. The 5 horse is East Avenue, also 3-1.
Wait, East Avenue is like the wild card in this race. This horse, as a 2-year-old, Jim, he just fired. He was like me in Vegas on Friday night 2 weeks ago. Just came out firing. He win big races.
Quick shooter.
One up the what?
Quick shooter.
Yes, he's a quick shooter. He won a huge stakes race, the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. And he beat some good quality horses. So everyone, he was like the Derby horse last year, but then he ran in the Breeders' Cup Classic, or not the Classic, Breeders' Cup for the juveniles, and he stumbled out of the gate. So everyone's kind of saying, hey, you know what? It's a stumble. Things happen with these young horses. But then his first race back this year at the Risen Star, he did not fire. He was kind of near the lead, and he faded really bad, to 8th and then finally in 10th position. So the question is he, did he? Some horses just don't mature and progress from a 2 to 3-year-old. That's the take I'm going to go with this horse. Some people are just saying those two races are just, you could toss them. The last race, he likes to be in the lead. He didn't get the lead. So, he's rating just not his style. This time, the jockey's going to give him the lead. Who knows? I think he's right. I think they're going to try to get this horse up in front, and that's why I like Burnham Square, because I think there'll be a little bit of pace to this race. So for me, I'm going to fade him. But bettor's out there. If you like East Avenue, go for it, and best of luck.
So the 6 horse is Chancer McPatrick. I think it's a fun name too. At 7-2, I have the odds. What do you think of this horse?
I like this horse. He's an East Coast horse, a deep closing type of horse. Great connections. You got Chad Brown as the trainer. You got Fleetwood Pratt as the jock. The bloodlines. He could handle the distance. The distance won't be a problem at all. He'll be coming from further back. He's a deeper type of closer. And just like I said earlier, East Avenue is going to try to get up in front, and some of the other horses will run with them. There'll be, it'd be some contested speed is my guess for the shape of this race. So, Chancer McPatrick has a very good chance to win this race. If you guys like Chancer McPatrick to win over Burnham Square, I tip my cap to you, and it certainly could happen. I'm going to stick with Burnham Square, but Chancer McPatrick would be right there too, is my guess.
Okay. What about the 7 horse Admiral Dennis at 20-1?
I'm not interested in Admiral Dennis. You got a great jockey, Luis Saez, trainer Brad Cox, Windstar Farms is the breeder. Great connections here, but I'm fading him, so we can move on to the next horse. Oh no, that's it.
That's
so
it.
Yeah, I have no interest in the 7 horse.
So we know you like Burnham Square. You said you like who in the exotics?
And then if you wanted to do some exotics, maybe throw in Owen Almighty and then Chancer McPatrick. And you might want to box those up for a trifecta, maybe a little exacta as well.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So then you said there's the Dubai race or whatever, but other than that, then you just kind of the run up for the Derby itself next month.
Yeah, there'll be one more race next week as well, but it's like that's 3 weeks away from the Derby. So usually the horses there, they don't have enough points. They're trying to get some points to get into the Derby, but then they race so close to the Derby that they usually, they're not ready to go for the Kentucky Derby. So it's, there's 2 more races. The race out in, Saudi Arabia is interesting because last year Forever Young won that race, and he came in 3rd at the Kentucky Derby last year. And remember, some people argue he probably should have been the winning horse, but he got bumped into by Sierra Leone, down the stretch. Sierra Leone hit him about 4 or 5 times. He's just lugging in to the left, and which certainly hampered Forever Young's run. Forever Young came in 2nd at the Breeders' Cup Classic. He lost to Sierra Leone, and then he ran a huge race about a month ago out in Saudi Arabia, and he beat this really classic turf horse. I can't think of the name right now, but it was a great race. It was one of the best races I saw. These 2 horses just battling down the stretch, and one took the lead, and the other one kind of looped around and came back and and took him down the line. So not to sneeze at the race out there. It'll be something to keep an eye on. U.S. is sending out 1 horse. The winner, a New York horse who won a race, Great Stakes race a month ago, is heading out there, and so there is a U.S. horse out there, but it's probably gonna be a Japan winner, and then we'll learn a little bit more about that horse 1 month from now.
I gotcha. Okay, Prime.
All right.
Check in with you then. We'll hopefully see you this weekend at some point, and don't work too much, buddy.
All right, you guys are the best. Have a great podcast, and hey, I'm hoping that your winners could partake with some winning bets this week. All right, take good care. See you guys.
It's good seeing you, Art.
All right, see you 305 or 300, whatever you are.
I'll see you Saturday.
Nice work. All right, see you Saturday. Bye.
All right, as we lose Prime, we got let's jump into NCAA basketball. There's only a couple games left. We'll kind of go over quickly what happened last weekend. Sweet 16, really in general, we've talked about this for the whole tournament. Really, it's just chalk talk, right? There was only one 1 or 2 seed to make the Elite 8. Texas Tech, which we had already mentioned, came back in Arkansas. They could have been the only Cinderella in this whole mix, and in the end, all the teams, even if they were trailing, came back, and Sparty came back in their game against Ole Miss and won 73-70. Houston sweated it out, but they never really trailed in that game for the most part. So I watched that game. It was a great inbounds play to get that dunk to go ahead, 62-60. And it was an awesome 3 by Purdue to tie the game, but it was like, I don't know, they're just playing with their food. So it was
That
just
was
a
game of
weird
the
Sweet
weekend.
16.
That was game
Yeah.
of the weekend for sure. And I had some stats for you real quick too.
Sure,
So
let's do it.
Thursday the overs were 4-0, and then they flipped on Friday. They went 4-0 to the under. Saturday they split 1-1, and then Sunday they went 2-0 on the under. So if you bet the unders this weekend, you were looking mighty fine. It feels like. So just
Yeah, for sure.
that definitely seems to be the trend, especially with Houston being in there, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, I hope you didn't take the over in that Alabama game. That was like that may have been at
No,
least
I did
Alabama
take
Duke.
the
The
under.
first Alabama game was great because they
Yes.
beat the over by themselves.
Yes.
But yeah, I just it seems to me that if you don't make your threes in this tournament, you lose ground really fast. And you see like it's kind of like the NBA, but they make a lot more shots in the NBA. But yeah, that was my big takeaway is that yeah, you got to make your threes in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean it's basketball, right? And if you're not going to be a 3-level scoring team and you're only going to score from ones and twos, from obviously free throw line or something, then it's tough. And that's why I didn't like Arizona, even though Caleb Love did carry them.
Yeah,
It's true. If you're not hitting, it's probably like 8 to 10 threes a game you have to hit to be in the game. So sometimes teams can't, if both teams don't shoot, then it's fine. And in these big venues, which we'll see in the Final Four, they're playing in a mega stadium. It's a lot different, right? It's the sight line. So sometimes teams can't find it, and other times teams can. So you can certainly win otherwise, but unless you're going to muck up the game and it's a up and down, you're in trouble.
yep.
Uh, for the Elite Eight, we had obviously we already know there's all 4 1 seeds now in the Final Four. It was a little non-spectacular. I will say Florida should have lost the game, and they ended up winning by 5, which was crazy. They were down, as I mentioned, big, and Walter Clayton just not let this team lose. This guy just scores late.
They did it to themselves. They missed 2 front end 1-1s also in that game. Texas Tech did that, and that's basically a 6-point swing because they both turned into Florida 3-pointers, which was just backbreaking.
Right. But yeah, and then obviously Duke, you mentioned they held Alabama to their lowest scoring total in the season, 65 points. Houston, they just kind of picked apart Tennessee. That was kind of sad. The first half was rough. I think it was the lowest scoring half in NCAA tournament history with like 15 points or something like that. So
something like that, yeah.
Sorry about that, Vols. I mean, this has happened before. They're a really good team, but they just kind of they hit the wall at some point. And then Auburn,
it's tough to feel bad
one of the best games.
It's tough to feel bad for Rick Barnes too, because I did see that if Tennessee finishes in the top 10 at the end of the season poll, he gets a nice $1 million bonus. So he's living all right. They'll finish top 10. So, but yeah, that was a tough game.
And then Auburn, you've got obviously they played a very good game against Sparty, both first and second half. Now Sparty hasn't covered a first half number in like a month, but they do usually roll back in the second half. And in this one, the score doesn't really indicate it wasn't really that close. They kind of cut it down to 5 or 6, but it really wasn't ever in jeopardy.
And it felt like Michigan State could never hit that big basket. They could never hit that big 3. They'd get, like to your point, they get it to 6 or 7, and then they couldn't hit that 3 and then make a stop and then get another bucket. It never seemed to. They probably had 13 chances, I would say, like in those scenarios where it just seemed like that game was there for the taking, or for at least for them to make it a game, and they couldn't do it. They just could not do it. Yeah.
So that sets up the big Final Four weekend on Saturday. We've got arguably the best Final Four of all time. I mean, we probably could go back in the annals and say maybe there was some better Final Fours, but top to bottom, I mean, since obviously 2008 was the last time you had 4 number 1s, but this is 4 teams that have been in that. Ken Pom started in 97, I guess, 99, look in the notes. This is the 4 of the top 10 teams of all time in efficiency.
I'm glad you have this stat.
We obviously have some good squads. We'll see if the numbers bear out, because obviously Duke is the best team on paper. But we'll see what happens. It should be great. The combined record I wrote down 135-16.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So there's definitely no surprises here. Any other impressions you have or stats you want to throw out?
I found it fascinating how arguably the youngest and biggest team is Duke, and I think they were second. They're the second best team all time according to Ken Pom. I think they were right next to the other Duke team. Was that like the 99 team that had I'm blanking on all the names, but yeah, Jay Williams and Carlos Boozer and all those guys. So I thought that was fascinating. I'm curious because you have so many conflicting styles coming into this. You have wants to drag it out, and then you got, kind of like I said, it's going to be fascinating to watch the young kids of Duke take on the men of Houston, and then if they get Auburn, play an older team that way. So I think it's going to be really fascinating to see from that standpoint.
For sure. So the first matchup is the SEC championship, we'll call it again. Florida's playing Auburn. Florida's a 2.5-point favorite right now, 159-point total. This is the first game at 5:09 p.m. Central. I just put down the notes just if people follow this stuff. So Ken Palm, they're number 2 in offense and 10 in defense. They've won 10 games in a row. Their last loss was at Georgia on the 25th of February.
Yep.
Now they did beat Auburn head-to-head on the 8th at Auburn 90-81, and I heard they were an 11-point dog in this game and that game, and they didn't have I think it was Elijah Martin. So in some ways you could say, well, I mean, why would Auburn not be favored again in a neutral court? But obviously Florida's played really good down the stretch, and Auburn has they've played better, of course, in the tournament. They had a little lag there. So we'll see. And then Auburn is 3rd again on offense, 8th on defense, 5 wins in a row. Obviously they lost in the SEC tournament against Tennessee. So what are your impressions of these teams so far? I don't know if you've gotten to watch them much in the tournament or just from the numbers.
They're basically even. If you look at every stat, everything from shooting percentage to field goal percentage to points per game to even free throw percentage. I mean, they're separated by 0.2 of a point in free throw percentage. So, I mean, you really couldn't find two teams that metrically match up. It's like looking in the mirror. I mean, like I said, the biggest difference in this game is age, and I think that might be the difference in this game is that age factor. But yeah, if I had to, this is like your whole live game strategy. This is definitely an in-game situation. 2.5, you don't get any value in my opinion either way you go. And I would definitely just wait to see if anybody gets hot coming out of the gate and just bet on that opposite team out of the way. But if I had to, you put a gun to my head right now and told me I had to pick one, I'd probably go Auburn, just like I said, just because of the age factor. Even though I think I had Florida winning in the Wegs pool.
Yeah, you did.
So maybe I'll just keep going against my picks and hopefully it works out that way. We'll see what happens.
Pretty good, yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of browsing and yeah, I mean, you just can't. There's no really mismatch in this game. I mean, even maybe coaching is like the only thing you can really point at, just because Bruce Pearl has been around the block once or twice. But I don't know. Wags. Like you said, these are going to be as lackluster as this tournament has been. These should be 2 great games. I'm hoping that as shitty as the tournament has been, that it's just been delaying. We've just been kicking the can down the road to hopefully get to the great Final Four games, and that just means probably the national championship is going to be amazing, and no one's going to forget how crappy this tournament really was.
Right, and that's what we hope for. I don't disagree. I think you're onto something with the coaching. I think Auburn has the better coach. I know that Golden is a good coach. He hasn't been to the Final Four before. Like, this is the first time he kind of defied. When we talk about champions, what do we talk about? It's not just the metrics. It's has he even been to a Sweet 16, which he had not been before. So obviously he's got that metric now. He's got to the Final Four. But to win it all, can he get to that next level? And he is, so that's my only caveat with Florida. I do like Florida. I picked them as well in the Wegs pool. I think they're the better team than the deeper team, but you've seen certain spots against UConn. They were kind of outcoached in that one for at least strategically initially. Obviously, Texas Tech had something going on until late, so they can't be playing with Auburn like that. Auburn can get after them. My biggest thing is the depth, and if Janae Broom is healthy, I think he's healthy. He got a little banged up in the last weekend.
Yeah.
So if he needs to be 100% healthy. So I like your strategy to bet in game on this one. I do like the over, though. I mean, 90-81 at Auburn, I understand they're at a bigger venue, so it could be a slow start. So I already bet the over in this game at the 159, but I wouldn't be sad to see the start slow and then bet the renewed over. Maybe it drops down to 150 or 149 if it's a slow start. So.
Yeah. And to that point, too, I mean, Auburn's been playing really good defense this tournament. The most they've given up in the whole tournament was to Creighton, and I think Creighton scored 70. Every other team has been in the 60s against Auburn, but Florida, on the other hand, has had They've been giving up, 75 to UConn. They gave up 70 to Maryland. They gave up 79 to Texas Tech. So, even Norfolk State scored 69 or almost 70 points on Florida. So again,
Yep.
if you're trying to, split hairs here, that might be something that you might have to worry about a little bit.
Yeah, they got scored in the last 25 minutes against Norfolk State is what I heard. So
Yeah.
So that'll be a good one. The second game is Duke, obviously against Houston. Duke is a 5-point favorite. The total has gone between 135 and a half to like 135, 136, waxing back and forth. 7:49 p.m. Central. It'll actually start whenever after the next one, like 30 minutes after the other one ends. So here's the metrics on the teams. Houston is 10th in offense, number 1 in defense. They've won 17 games in a row, which is clearly the longest streak in the country. Their last loss was at Texas Tech in overtime on February 1st. In fact, they've got 4 losses on the season. The last 3 losses have been in overtime. This team doesn't go down easy, doesn't go down without a fight. Duke is the number 1 team on offense, 4th in defense, so they metrically still the best team. 15 wins in a row. Their last loss was at Clemson on the 8th of February. So this is kind of how can I put it? If the first one's going to be kind of, and if you said Auburn's playing good D, I think there's going to be a lot of scoring. This one, I think it's going to be more of a little, not a rock fight, but it's going to be tougher. If Houston has a chance, they got to slow down the game.
Yeah.
Duke is going to try to run out, but I think their length will slow down Houston's offense. Can Houston's men, as you said, rough up these boys and slow them down? I think they will for a while. I don't know if they're going to for the whole game. So I have Houston plus the 5 already in pocket. I do think Duke is a better team. They should win the game, but I can't see Duke just blowing this team out by 20. I just don't see it.
Yeah. And now, I mean, the one thing that I really struggle with too, and if you forget, which a lot of people used to do, Houston started 4-3 this season.
They did
in their first 7 games. So they are battle tested. They're definitely not going to be punked. They're not going to be intimidated by Duke.
Right.
But I think the playmaking ability of this Duke team, the ability of Cooper Flagg to not just be the scorer, but also be the facilitator. He just sees the court so well. Just better, so much better than most. And even as a team, they average a little over 17 assists per game, which is 5 more than Houston. So the way that they conduct their offense and share the ball, I think is ultimately going to be the difference. I do like your idea of taking the 5 already. I think that's a good number as far as value, because again, I think it is going to be kind of a drag it out kind of game. But I have a hard time believing if LJ Cryer doesn't score 20 points, I just don't see how Houston is going to have enough offense to beat Duke. So the best player on the team plays for Duke. We all know it's Cooper Flagg. He's the best player in the tournament. It's just they're going to need a beautiful culmination of some really good defense and hopefully some either foul trouble on Duke or some bad shooting from Duke, I think, for them to win this game.
Now, Duke, what I will say about Duke is they don't really have a true point guard. This Flagg is more of a small forward point guard, point forward.
Yeah.
And they have good guards. If Houston decides to kind of pick them up, long, full court, just press them the whole time, try to see if they can get some turnovers to get easier buckets, because I do think Duke's defense with the length really is going to bother Houston.
Yeah.
But if they can get that offense disrupted, then again, I should take actions mantra, take Houston first half points. Would probably be a better bet than the full game. But that's where I can see it happening, that they're going to get turnovers. Houston doesn't turn the ball over that much. And if they can get a little bit of offense out of somebody, like you say, Cryer or Uzan or somebody else, then we'll see if they can make this a game late. And if it gets in the last 2 minutes, that's where I think Duke could crumble just because of the youth, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But if they're up by 7, 8 points, I mean, even against Arizona, they didn't just step on their throat. They were up by about 13 or 14, and then they let them get it down to like 5 or 6. And I was like, wow, are they going to lose this game? And I think against a team like Houston, who can get rebounds and do that thing, it's just going to be a little bit tighter. I do think when push comes to shove, Flagg's going to get a shot off. I mean, it's like the last shot or something. But
yeah. Well,
this one, I'm looking forward to this game. Totally different styles in these 2 games.
Oh yeah, and the only thing that I can think of as a caveat, if you're a Duke fan, what you got to worry about is that this is the high, if this is a stock, they have never been higher. Like everybody is on this Duke train right now. Like the way they made Alabama look. I mean, even Marcus Spears, he looked on the court. He had all sorts of trouble, and he could not So I just maybe I don't.
Sorry, buddy, I couldn't hear you. Can you hear me now? Can't hear you for some reason. Damn it. Sorry, pal.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Sorry.
But yeah, that's the biggest thing I'd worry about with Duke is just like I said, that buy high, they might be feeling themselves a little bit, and that's they talked about on the telecast with when they played Alabama was it wasn't the physicality of the year before why they lost in the Elite, it was that mental side of things. So they spent their whole offseason redoing their programs and implementing some meditation and other mental aspects of the game. So again, if it gets down to that moment, I just we'll see what happens, but I don't know. That's the only path I think I see for Houston to win this game.
Well, and again, Kelvin Sampson, he's 69, I think, years old.
Yeah.
Shire's 37. Obviously, yeah, Sampson's been in the Final Four. Shire hasn't. He's been as an assistant, and obviously he's been as a player. So it's tough. We'll see. I think Duke's got what it takes, but you never know. I mean, it's in the end, it's going to be a hell of a game. I'm looking forward to hopefully to be whooping it up. We'll get some strip cards going and all that and be excited. So.
What is a strip card, by the way? I have no
I
idea.
will explain that.
Is.
So we're talking about the weekend. So first of all, I know I'm missing your sister's party, and I feel bad that I put this out on the same day as your sister's party. So
that's okay. I won't be at her party either, so don't feel bad.
Good. Okay, good.
Yeah.
A strip card is basically, think about it like a square for like the NFL. It's just instead of having a square where you have the two teams, you have an outcome for both of the two teams. So in other words, like a 7 and a 1, you need to have both numbers. It's just a combined total of the numbers. So if it's 51-51, then and you have the 2, then you win the pool for that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Gotcha.
So I usually do it for each half. So there's 4 strip cards. If we have multiple people, we can do multiple, we'll call it pools, multiple strip cards per half. I just need 10 people to buy in on one strip card, right? So we'll decide if that's $3 or $5 or whatever, and then the winner takes all in that situation.
Nice. Okay.
We just do it for each. I'll do it for the first half of the first game, second half of the first game. We guess we could do it, including overtime, probably makes sense, and then for the second game. So it's just another, put a little cheddar cheese on there for the people that aren't betting on the game. They kind of get, invested in what we're going to do. So yeah, that party's at Four Shadows. I'll be there at 4:30. The game started at 5:09 on Saturday.
Okay.
Tomorrow, no real plans. I've got some plans tonight, and then Sunday, just take it easy. Maybe I throw some dice again. See if I'm totally out on my hot streak or not.
Nice. Yeah. Let me know about Sunday. I might join you on that. Yeah, for sure.
Why not? What about you? You've got some PBA stuff, looks like.
Oh yeah, so we're going to Milwaukee. Well, it's like right outside of Milwaukee. Graham is bowling in the PBA All-Star Challenge. It's the one-handers versus the two-handers, so that's pretty cool.
Okay.
One of my other co-hosts on the other podcast, former teammate. So he put us on the list. We are on the list, so we're gonna go check that out. Get to see him and catch up and everything.
That's awesome.
And then, like I said, we'll have your party Saturday night. My sister was okay with not going to her birthday. She's like, "Yeah, go watch the bowling. That's a lot cooler anyway." And then Sunday, I don't think we really got any plans going on Sunday. Okay. So we'll see. Yeah, we throw some dice. Maybe maybe we'll do that. And then, of course, we got bowling again on Tuesday, and we're coming around. I forgot to mention, I did call some bingo last night. I found there's a part-time gig that I've started dabbling with. It's like bar bingo. So they travel around to different businesses. It's good. It's a good time. So we got to meet some people doing that. Hopefully get some more listeners out of the side action and the Between the Benches networks there. And
where did you do that? That's it out by where you're staying now?
Yeah. So this one was in Lombard. It was out of Sebastian's Ale and Whiskey House or something like that. So a nice little place. The best part about this is they had like a 3x6 row of, I don't know, probably 50-inch TVs as like a big mega screen, if you will. So that was kind of cool. They had the Cavs game on, which is what it is. But yeah, I love a good sports bar with a nice TV setup. You definitely want to get me in there. That's the way to do it.
Nice.
So,
well, next week we'll recap, Final Four championship, but we're going to do a Masters edition.
yep.
Obviously, you got a buddy who's going to join us.
Yeah,
Is
Ginger. Ginger will be joining us. His name is
Ginger?
Andrew, but we call him Ginger, and you'll definitely see why. But yeah, he is the golf guru, man.
Okay.
He does a lot of the daily stuff. He sent me a picture last week. He did like a $1 roulette and picked 5 golfers for like finishers, and yeah, he ended up turning $1 into $200. And I was like, the only thing I was mad about is the fact he didn't share. I was like, man, where was
Exactly.
this? Where was this like Friday morning when you put it together, or Thursday morning, or Sunday, or whenever you put it together? So, but yeah, he does his homework. So hopefully we'll get together with him, and we'll definitely have that episode out. And maybe we'll combine both of them, or maybe we'll make them separate
Yeah.
episodes. I don't know. We'll figure that. We'll figure out the
We could just-
logistics
As
out.
long as we get it up before like Wednesday night or Wednesday,
Yeah.
I should be able, if we record the other part whenever, we can put it together. It's not a big deal because
Yeah.
at that point, basketball's over. Master starts Thursday. You want to give people a chance to listen. So
Yeah,
just
and
preview.
he's traveling up to Columbus for this coming weekend. He's going to go to the Jackets game. He's down in Tampa, but he's going to go up to the Jackets games for just hopefully see Ovechkin break the scoring record. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, follow us at Side Action Pod on X and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Follow me at Wegs Coop on X on Instagram. Don't forget our TikTok.
Yeah, don't forget it. Don't you
Never.
dare. Don't yeah, never forget. Never forget. That's right. And I'm Coop. You can check on Instagram at Dalton Cooper, on X at Mr. Grumpy Gills. Again, we are the Side Action Podcast. Again, shout out to Art Primetime Murphy for joining us. Man, he's getting me excited for this whole Kentucky. I'm gonna bet on the Kentucky
Yeah.
Derby for the first time in my whole life this
Oh
year.
my gosh.
And it's all thanks to Art. So special shout out to him. It's always a pleasure. It's I love being a couple, but just being a throuple is just something so special. It really is.
There's something special about a throuple.
It really is, yes. It takes a village.
Well, enjoy the games this weekend. We'll check it out early next week.
Yeah, love you guys.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made, as the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.